Epcot is nearing the end of its multi-year transformation, which began in 2016. However, there was a plan in the early 2000s that would have seen a very different transformation of Epcot's future world. Project Gemini would have transformed Future World into Discoveryland, which was initially designed in 2003 and planned to have been completed by October 1st, 2006. Of course, those plans never entirely came to be. So what happened? Let's explore the Distory of Project Gemini. So what was planned for Project Gemini? Let's start with the new plans for Spaceship Earth, which would have been the main attraction of Discoveryland. Instead of the Omnimover attraction we know today, there were plans to convert Spaceship Earth into a roller coaster, known as Time Racers. The roller coaster would have seen guests blasting through time and the history of mankind. One of the main reasons for Project Gemini was to create new experiences that would attract teens and preteens to the park, especially as guest feedback for the park claimed Epcot was seen as boring to under 18s. Behind Spaceship Earth would have been a complete redesign of the former Innoventions area. This area would have been transformed into a luscious garden, with the Innoventions building split into 6 buildings. These would have been Leading Edge, a smaller version of Innoventions, a robot-themed restaurant, Future Mart, the main retail location, Cool Stuff, a showcase for future technology, an internet cafe so guests could check their emails whilst dining, and a home of the future. The east side of the park would have not seen many changes, with Ellen's Energy Adventure and Test Track remaining. Next to Test Track would have been Junior Autopia, a racetrack for younger kids who couldn't ride Test Track. Mission Space was already being constructed when Project Gemini was being planned, so it can be seen in the plans. Finally, on this side, the Wonders of Life Pavilion was marked as a future expansion plot, planned to be closed due to a lack of sponsorship since 2001. On the west side of the park, a hedge maze was planned to be located between the unchanged Imagination Pavilion and the Land Pavilion. Outside of the Land Pavilion was to be a suspended roller coaster themed to a rainforest, whilst 2 IMAX theatres were to be added to the land so the popular Soarin' attraction could be added to Epcot. Unlike the California Adventure version, Epcot's would have featured a film taking guests on a tour of different ecosystems. Finally, the Living Seas Pavilion would have been rethemed to The Little Mermaid and have an attraction known as Under the Sea. Project Gemini was set to cost between $350 and $500 million, which Disney, specifically Michael Eisner, was not willing to fork out the money for. Despite this, some elements of Project Gemini did eventually make it into Epcot. As mentioned before, Mission Space was already being constructed, so that was a guarantee. Additionally, the Wonders of Life Pavilion went into seasonal operation in December 2003, eventually closing on January 1st, 2007. Yet the expansion never came to be in this location. Soarin' also managed to come to Epcot in 2005, though located on the other side of the Land Pavilion, and with the California film being used at DCA. Finally, the Living Seas Pavilion did receive a retheme, but not to The Little Mermaid. Instead, it was rethemed to the much newer, sea-themed movie Finding Nemo in 2007. The removal of the Future World name and the overhaul of the centre of Epcot did eventually happen with Epcot's most recent transformation. However, the 7-year transformation of Epcot is a story for another day. Whilst Project Gemini ultimately failed to take off, several elements did manage to make it into the park. But would you have liked to see the project realised? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you want to see next on the Distory channel.